name is Klanda and we are the Group 6. Today, we are going to tackle about outsourcing. Together with my group mates named Mayflower Abisilia, Jasanadine Carba, Cindy Camille Deza, and Ira May Montesa. So sit back, relax, and enjoy our presentation. The purpose of this study is to identify the costs and benefits of outsourcing under related literature review and to contribute to the existing research works that cover this field of study. In order to provide the reader with understanding of outsourcing, some background on different studies will be provided. This paper aims to analyze the concept of outsourcing in the BPO industry in terms of its evolution. The outsourcing in different studies, factors that affect the behavior of outsourcing in BPO, the major points that support the outsourcing in BPO industry, and the major points that were raised about outsourcing in BPO industry. On the other hand, this paper seeks to capture the fundamentals of concept that will implement in the BPO industry outsourcing. Many things had already been said and written about outsourcing. Almost anything and everything about the purpose and intricacies about this practice had already been studied and put under scrutiny. Hence, for this purpose, the research methodology used in this study is the literature review, which is the more relevant than other methods of research study. But unlike traditional reviews, which often lack thoroughness, rigor, and are merely conducted unplanned, this paper follows a specific methodology that offers an overview of different types of reviews, as well as some guidelines on how to both conduct and evaluate literature review paper. This study described the growth and some problems of the business process segment of BPO in the outsourcing industry. The research on business owners in relation to outsourcing found to be scarce. The finding in this research work suggests that there are four main driver factors to the business owners' behavioral intentions to outsource function and a particular business process to third-party provider. These factors are listed as reduced costs, expertise, increased efficiency, and staffing flexibility. The findings propose that companies should consider and pay close attention to the changes in the consumer preference as still remain dynamic if they want to remain competitive in the business community both in the local and international environments. The continuous and drastic changes on how business is being done today reflects that worthiness for the further researchers considering the booming potential in the use of outsourcing as an effective business tool for an effective and fruitful operations.
A pleasant day to each and everyone. I am Mayflower Abisilia, the second presenter of this group, and I will going to share with you the second part of our paper, the definition of outsourcing by different studies and background information. According to TWIN 2021, outsourcing is the business practice of hiring a party outside the company to perform a services or create goods that traditionally performed in-house by the company's own employees. It is usually undertaken by the companies as a cost-cutting measure wherein the services will be provided by the specialized service provider. In 1989, outsourcing was first recognized as a business strategy, and throughout the 1990s, outsourcing became an integral part of the business economics. Outsourcing became a major trend over the past decade. In fact, Philippines reported as the new hub of outsourcing and became the only non-Indian in the top 7 of international top 100 outsourcing destinations. The Philippines' booming business process outsourcing or BPO industry has been given credit by providing jobs for 1 million Filipinos according to Mr. Jose Marie Mercado, a president of the IT and Business Process Association of the Philippines. In view of this, Philippines outsourcing considered as the shining star of the Philippine economy and second largest outsourcing industry next to India. It's considered as a new symbol of competitiveness that improves the economy and governance, while the enduring drive of the Filipinos will be carry us though. In addition, here are some outsourcings in different sectors. First, we have outsourcing in call center sector. Outsourcing call center sector in the Philippines is a large growing industry and sustains growth opportunity which has potential to help ease the country's unemployment and export problems. It has employment benefits which employ 80,000 workers and are creating 3,000 new jobs per month. Second, we have outsourcing in online food delivery services sector. In last decade, people's lives have largely moved from going to clicking, shifting from physical dimension to the online world where most transactions are concluded online. Because of this, the demand for online food delivery services ranked to the top where people prefer to purchase food to a restaurant and deliver the food to their doorstep rather than wasting their time on traffic and finding parking slot. There are business owners that intended to outsource food delivery services to third-party online delivery services provider. This is to sustain the limited capacity for dining in, and it is better than creating in-house delivery team because it is convenient and most effective. Third, we have outsourcing in information technology IT sector. It became the biggest earner in the Philippines sector reported in 2014, making Manila the world's second leading outsourcing destination, and Philippines is the most trusted brand in IT outsourcing. On the current year, reported that the total investment generated by the Philippine Economic Zone Authority or PEZA have reached 4.2 trillion pesos, and the IT industry has one of the certainly played big roles in this achievement. The IT field is a growth opportunity due to the country's rapid shift toward digitalization. This is according to Department of Trade and Industry DTI Secretary Mr. Ramon Lopez. And that is the end of the second part. The next part of our paper will be shared by Ms. Deza.
Good day, ma'am. Good day, classmate. My name is Cindy Camille Deza. I'm going to report the part 3. The outsourcing decision consider a various factors, including tangible, such as cost, facilities, human resources, and intangible, such as strategy, quality factors. In 1971, Sati developed an analytic method, namely the Analytic Hierarchy Process, or AHP, which has the characteristics that we need for making outsourcing decisions. Sati 1990 thinks that the most creative task in planning is to choose the factors that are important for making decision. In the outsourcing consideration, it means to find out those factors that affects the benefits of the firm. Different organizations have different considerations. Firms include all the factors which can affect organizations' benefit as possible as they can. Here are some factors that affect the behavior of outsourcing. The first one is regulatory environment. 15 years ago, the BPO industry started to exponentially grow. This has been a primary challenge for them. This growth can only be attributed to the quality of the services that they are providing and the work of ethic of the employees. Currently, in the Philippines, BPOs employ over 1.2 million employees. The United States is the company base and the leading user of BPO services in the Philippines. Its regulatory bodies have produced many compliance-related documents to make a legal frame for outsourcing partners and people working in the outsourcing companies. Many new regulations are being implemented, but until this is done, the demand for outsourcing is still in progress. The second factor is cost of doing business. The BPO industry was advertised as a massive money saving in industry. The fact that everywhere that you will be able to see a promotion to get access to top talent for a minimal cost. Ever since the BPO started growing, they developed into an important revenue-generating industry. But the budget and cost of doing business remain the primary concerns for many outsourcing companies. The outsourcing companies expected to come up with the best results, while the cost of their services is expected to stay minimal. This puts enormous pressure on the resources of these companies, since they are forced to give their maximum while the budget must remain the same. The third factor is customer expectations and quality of service. Since the BPO affected by one of the major factor, the customer-centric, this means the BPO industry provide the best possible results for their clients. In many cases, outsourcing companies also provide a consult and maintain constant communication with their clients. Because of the social media, clients are now very familiar with the best practices in the BPO industry. This put huge pressure on outsourcing companies that is forced to spread their resources as thin as possible just to maintain the required level of service, quality, and revenue. The fourth factor is COVID-19 pandemic. When the Philippines imposed a nationwide lockdown on March 16, 2020, the most affected and experienced lockdowns were the outsourcing workers. When the period of ECQ or enhanced community quarantine started, business process outsourcing, also known as BPO, is one of the few industries allowed to remain open because it demonstrates the importance of the country's economy. However, the quarantine restrictions intended BPO businesses were unable to maintain normal staffing levels, particularly on site. A typical call center layout in the Philippines notes the difficulties for physical distancing if there was a full workforce. To respond on this, BPO offered and implemented home working or the work from home. Unfortunately, Philippines ranked the second slowest in internet speed or connection among the 10 members of ASEAN. In addition, other outsourcing companies provide required on-site services such as outsource on healthcare, janitorial, and skilled workers, so they are unable to work from their home. The fifth and the last factor that affects the behavior of outsourcing is end of contractualization law. The 17th Congress passed Senate Bill No. 1826, which endeavored to end contractualization in May 2019, after President Rodrigo Duterte certified the bill as urgent. Many companies in the country have resorted to hiring employees on a contractual basis, even if the task requires them to do the regular type of work done in a company, thereby depriving the employees of security of tenure and weaken their opportunity for long-term employment. The President emphasized that the government is mandated by the Constitution to provide job security to all workers. End or end of contractualization has been the ever-present battle cry and the biggest factor effects on outsource in the Philippines. The idea is for the government to tighten and reduce, if not prohibit, the use of temporary employment contracts, whereby a company hires a temporary worker and job outsourcing.
Hi everyone, my name is Aramay Montesa. I'm going to talk about the major points that support outsourcing. The first one is the firm strategy, the structure, and the rivalry. Because growth is so closely linked to overall corporate health, growth plans are linked to increased competitiveness. Greater industry competitions allows a company to achieve a higher level of competitiveness in contrast with the worldwide competitors. The key reason for outsourcing to the Philippines includes the Filipino cultural affinity for the West, a highly motivated labor pool, and the Philippines' agent work ethics, which result with a fewer labor issues than in Western countries. That's why English is the primary means of communication in business, in government, and school. Because of these benefits, the Philippines had been the popular call center destination. That's why the sectors is expected to continue to develop in double digits, owing to the diversification and the expansion of the significant client abroad, according to Boy 2011. Nonetheless, there is a rising trend among the industry executive to shift away from call center heavy employment and the concentration and towards the higher valued added jobs and businesses such as the outsourced animation and the IT services. The second one is the government policies and chance. To keep the BPO's industry growing, the Philippines government is planning to establish alternatives smaller cities. This result, 8 cities were initially recognized as the most desirable alternative destination. That includes Davao, Cebu, Clark, Cagayan de Oro, Iloilo, Baguio, Bacolod, and Dumaguete. Local administration in the aforementioned cities work so hard to advertise their towns as a country's world alternative outsource option. Although Metro Manila is still to maintain to project its prominence as a top tourist destination in the next years, this place offers substantial benefits over Metro Manila, in particular in the cost of living and the real estate. According to Porter 1990, he defines that the chance factor as the positive or the negative effects of a variety of external events such as war or the policy changes in other countries. Because U.S. corporations are the major client of the Philippine BPO industry, the potential policies changed by the U.S. administration to bring offshore employment back to the nation may have a detrimental influence on the BPO sectors. The Philippines, on the other hand, is located in a more business-friendly and stable region, allowing any thriving industry in the Philippines to find a market for its services and products outside for its home market. Chance, on the other hand, is insufficient to promote any industry and it must be carefully utilized by businesses and governments. So the third one is the customer service outsourcing. Nowadays, as the customer service had been known as the leading sectors of the business process outsource market, this industry had been involved from round-the-clock interaction to their customers on the phone to multi-channels contact centers, connecting with the customers across the voice, live chat, social media, and the email channels. So the contact centers BPOs had been implemented a cloud contact centers and a unified communication platform that enables the efficient interaction management across all of these channels onshore and offshore. And they also enable real-time and historical monitoring of performance against the service level agreement. The contract BPO manages human and technology resource management and takes direction from their customers on the skills, the expertise, and the quality standards required to meet their objectives. The next one is they have the access to innovation in the business process because BPO providers are more likely to have the knowledge about the advances happening in the process where they specialize. That means to say that they are more likely to invest in the new technologies such as automation. Automation where you can improve the speed, the cost, and the quality of the work. Neural opportunities and a wider scope of job roles. So the Philippines economy was once the primary agrarian, but since it was diversified into industry and services, this has resulted as the additional opportunities for entrepreneurship and a broader range of job roles. So the Philippines is an appealing offshore outsource option for the foreign investor because of the low labor cost and an occasional cost of living. And as a Filipino, we also known as a talented pool of young, educated, and the customer-oriented workers. So there are numerous benefits in outsourcing within the Philippines. whilst the AI or the artificial intelligence threatens to switch over low-skilled positions within the BPO industry to many medium to high skilled jobs are expected to be created if the workforce adopts and upgrades its skills. So, the government has been the serious supporters of the BPO industry since inception, and now they are working together to stay the industry growing through training programs and other activities that leverage the AI or the artificial intelligence and the automation.
Good day everyone, my name is Jessa Nadine Carba and I am here to present to you the major points that was raised about outsourcing. So the first point that was raised about outsourcing is skill shortage. There is a skill shortage in the Philippines BPO industry. According to the Information Technology and Business Process Association of the Philippines, or the IBPAP, finding the right talent has proven to be a challenge for the industry. Since the minimum requirements for the occupation usually requires at least 2 years of college education and strong spoken with written English, the Philippine BPO sector employs mostly college students. Even though there is the shortage of graduates looking for work, many of them lack the necessary skills to work in BPO organizations. Despite the fact that call centers should have an easier time filling openings, IBPAP estimated that only 10 individuals qualify for call center jobs. As the industry expands, there will likely be too few college students to meet the demand. This is an important and serious issue considering that the Philippine BPO sector is aiming for the higher value-added activities. Aside from skilled labor shortages, one of the major points that was raised about outsourcing is the high turnover of BPO workers. Because of the high turnover rates, the BPO industry ended up with higher requirements and higher training costs for employers. According to IBPAP, the average annual industry turnover for its members was 38% in 2009. This figure dropped to 19% in 2015 but remained high when compared to industry standards. But what causes these high turnovers in the BPO industry? Well, according to Amante, the main reasons of high BPO turnovers are lack of competitive compensation, lack of professional growth, and workplace stress. Call center hopping also became common because trained and experienced professionals are in short supply. Individuals who switch positions are more likely to earn a greater wage with a new employer. The next major point is competitive procurement, because it is currently the standard practice to pick outsourcing services providers via thorough request for proposal processes, which may have been preceded by early request for information or request for quotation phases. For large outsourcing projects, it is now common for the customer to enter the extensive negotiations with the top two bids and only make a final decision after further conversations and specifics have been unearthed during those negotiations. Competitive procurement can take a long time and need a lot of preparation. Also, not every company will wish to participate into the effort. Some businesses may underbid or supply unreasonably cheap goods or services in order to undercut competitors' rates. Last but not the least, change is also a major point that was raised about outsourcing. Why? If major modifications to the relationship are required to be introduced during the initial term of any renewal period of the agreement, a service provider may become opportunistic when it comes to pricing. Given the typical long duration of outsourcing contracts, this is more likely to occur. This danger exists due to an over-reliance of the competitive procurement procedure that will be explained. The customer can aggressively negotiate the profit flow to the service provider in accordance with the agreement as originally established. Also, obtaining the service provider's agreement to use reasonable efforts to quote a set price for executing any suggested change is another option for the customer to minimize the risk of change-related expenses
of the outsourcing arrangement's economic feasibility. If the fixed price cannot be given, the service provider must quote the client a fee for the proposed modification that is equal to the service provider's direct cost of providing the change, plus a profit margin equal to the defined amount in its recent annual report's operating margin. Now that we're done with the major points that was raised about the outsourcing, let us now move on to the next part of the presentation, which is the conclusion and recommendation, and it will be presented by Ms. Shane Esclanda.
Outsourcing, as demonstrated by this study, is crucial in today's environment since it allows businesses to save money while still operating efficiently. Because of the impact of globalization and growing competition, many businesses are now conducting the multiple operations required to do business, which is why many organizations prepare to outsource their business and ensure quality while focusing on their goals. Outsourcing becomes one of the business strategies that the organization has considered and also the factors in decision making. It also allows people to have an opportunity to enter into this industry since BPO is always open to hiring employees with a competitive benefit. The competitiveness of today's business opportunities had given rise to the popularity of outsourcing or third-party providers. Companies, whether involved in the sale of goods or services, are now more inclined to seek third-party providers to do part of their business function and processes. From the business point of view, the benefits of outsourcing can be more beneficial and substantial. The benefits range from cost saving and improved effectiveness to greater competitive advantage. Organizations, both from the public and private sectors, are now more inclined in getting the service of third-party providers to handle some aspect of their business function and processes. The primordial reason for companies to engage in outsourcing is the lower cost they will have to pay compared to the cost they will have to yield if they directly employ personnel to do the business function and process being outsourced. Companies, more specifically Business Process Office or BPOs, are obviously and visibly benefiting to the cost savings that outsourcing brings about. They can get their job done at a lower cost and at a better quality as well. BPOs or other manufacturing companies can get their job done at a lower cost and even better quality as well. This is usually true from Western and European countries availing of outsourcing services from Asia, such as Philippines, which gives much lower salaries compared to them. Notwithstanding the fact that the high quality of the services provided by outsourced personnel from Asian countries is high, thereby ensuring that low cost does not necessarily mean low quality. Companies which benefited for the cost saving achieved through outsourcing has more opportunities to save capitalization for investment in other areas of their respective businesses. Besides cost saving, there are other reasons why outsourcing has become more popular to a particular task, job, or a process. Outsourcing can free up workload from the company's employees or staff to concentrate on their main tasks, targets, and goals. Also, the company which choose outsourcing company that specialize in the process or service they would wanted to achieve or accomplish can be assured of a more productive, efficient, and better quality output. Outsourcing can also give companies opportunities to access specialized capabilities and technologies otherwise not accessible or can be afforded by them. It can also make companies more agile and flexible that they can easily adapt to changing market conditions and challenges, while providing cost savings and service level improvements. From the foregoing study as presented, it is deemed more advisable for companies to engage in outsourcing or seek the services of third-party providers to gain the benefits as enumerated and defined in this paper. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed listening to our presentation. Thank you and have a nice day.